The NHL preseason concludes, which means we're now 1 week away from the regular season to begin. While that's going on, the AHL preseason has just begun. We'll talk about that as well on today's episode. Plus, what's the latest news with some of the current roster players for the Arizona Coyotes? We'll find out more. Just stay locked in to Locked On Coyotes.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Robyn Leonio, your host of this show. Now entering my second season as host. I've been covering the Coyotes for the last 5-6 years or so, mainly covering the Tucson Roadrunners, of part of Five for Howling. Carl Pavlik, my wonderful co-host, he is the managing editor of fiveforhowling.com, part of SB Nation. We are here to talk to you guys about the Arizona Coyotes' upcoming season, all their preseason talk, all the Roadrunners stuff. Lots to get to on today's show. First, I want to thank everyone for tuning into this show and for making the Locked On Coyotes podcast your first listen of the day. Once again, we are free and available on all platforms, everywhere you get it, including on YouTube. We absolutely love your support. But Carl, we had the day off yesterday. Obviously, I needed the day of recharge. I'm not sure about you because we've been going at it for quite a long time. Plus, a lot of other games and back to back. I think we needed the day off.
Yeah, it's definitely like really amping up for a lot of people. It's amping up for the teams. It's amping up for people like you and myself in the media. And sometimes we just all need a day off to kind of relax and prepare and make sure that we're making the best stuff for people.
Yeah. For those who don't know, I was actually at the Roadrunners game last night. I will talk to you guys about that a little bit later. But the last game for the Coyotes for the preseason was just last night. And they finish having lost only one preseason game, Carl.
Which is astonishing. I don't think anyone was really expecting that. Preseason games mean nothing. So it's not like this is changing anyone's idea of what the Coyotes are going to be next year. But we maybe have a little bit better idea of what some of the veterans are going to be and who is going to be playing where. So it means a lot, but it also means nothing. That's the joy of preseason.
I mean, it means a lot to the Coyotes in a sense where, again, we got a good idea about these prospects, and there are still some players that are still up there, like Barrett Hayton and Victor Soderstrom are still on the Coyotes roster, on the training camp roster, as at the time of this recording.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, do they even make a roster spot? Like, that's a huge question.
It is. I expect we're going to be getting another round of cuts fairly soon, possibly later today when people are listening. I do want to point out real quick that Hayton is still up. He's dealing with an injury, so that may be one of the reasons. Soderstrom has been getting like consistent play, and honestly, he's looked pretty solid. So I'm really curious if he makes a opening night roster.
It's interesting because I was talking with a couple guys at the Roadrunners game about that, and they're like, "Yeah, Soderstrom probably will make the final roster. Who knows how long he'll stay up there?" And some people even thought that Provenev would get sent down, which is an interesting prospect because obviously you can't have Soderstrom and Provenev because based off of your stuff, because you got Kyle Capobianco up there too. You can't send him down because he had to clear waivers, which would be an incredible, difficult thing to do, and that would leave 8 defensemen. Like you got to cut that down.
Unless the team makes a move to someone for LTIR, there's going to be something happening. I would think that Soderstrom is the easiest player to send down. Like it's a contract move kind of situation. But if he is good enough to make the Coyotes the opening night roster, and he is such a highly valued prospect, there are other areas of the game where you're like, yeah, we want you to be here for opening night, man, just because we want you to have you here. And maybe the team goes with, you know, 8 defensemen for a while or 7. I'm not sure. That's going to be a really interesting call. I'm glad I am not the one making these roster cuts.
No, because yeah, it is like there's a lot to get to. I think Bill Armstrong and John Ferguson have to go. They're going to have a lot to discuss over the next 6 days because I mean, obviously, you want to get your opening roster before next Thursday's game, but like you know, you theoretically have up until next Thursday to really decide which 23 players you want in your team.
Yeah. And I will say like the guys made are going to make it really hard. I do not envy Bill Armstrong and turn to make these roster decisions. Like we saw for what little of the preseason we saw, a lot of really good Coyotes players, and a lot of the players who like people may have expected to be towards the end of their careers. Louis Erickson, Andrew Ladd, like and some players like Lawson Krause and Christian Fishers, they all had really good preseasons. And again, it doesn't say much, but it says something. Says that they came to play. They came to the preseason ready, which honestly is not something you could have said for the Coyotes in the past. They tend to start low.
Remember, I said this on a previous episode that this Coyotes team has nothing to lose and something to prove.
Yeah,
Like, and that's the thing, and that's the kind of scary thing is that because of that is because I mean they could all of a sudden winning games. I'm not sure that's the best thing for them, but like
yeah.
because of this kind of attitude we're seeing from this team is they could somehow be surprising in some games. Like,
Yeah, it really is. Like, and we've come up against this like so many times. The big conversation we had a couple of episodes ago about like Andrew Ladd being like on the team and getting in that fight that first preseason game. It really kind of set the standards that a lot of these players who have been like written off as like contract dumps, because it's essentially what they were, but they're still athletes. They're still coming to play, and they're going to prove that they still have a place on the ice. And the Coyotes are a perfect place to prove that next season.
yeah, and again, and that's the thing that I like about this team is because it's full of those kind of players. And I mean, I always love a team where it's just like full of veterans who have a lot to prove, and they might get dismissed. There's a certain team of mine that that had to show that this year, and they ended up becoming really good. I'll
Sure.
mention more about that in a little bit, but you know what I mean. Like it's like I
Yeah.
love that kind of storyline. Obviously, I'm not saying that the Coyotes are going to be this team because this team ended up becoming a really, really, really good team. There's no way the
Sure.
Coyotes can do that, but
Yeah. It is funny. There is like kind of a skill, and it has been exciting to see these people. Everyone loves underdog stories, and the Coyotes are just like all underdog at this point. By design, like the team was definitely
yeah.
set up in this way. But it's been really interesting. Uh, I just will wish, since we're talking about the preseason, it's been very difficult to watch. Like from the
Hmm.
Coyote side, we haven't gotten like video, we haven't gotten radio. I tried to watch last night's game. It was a blackout, so I couldn't get radio. I wasn't gonna listen to the Vegas radio because that's just a step too far. Uh, Watching the opponent's video stream, it's annoying, but I will do it. But listening to their radio broadcast, no, that's just not something that I'm able to do. But I want to watch this team, and I want to watch it during preseason, and I feel like it shouldn't be this difficult.
Yeah, it shouldn't be this difficult. I mean, like preseason, like yes, as you said, kind of no one cares. It doesn't really matter, also like that. But at the same time, there are people like us who kind of need to kind of feed off of this kind of stuff. And
Yeah. And there's like people like us who are generating content, but there's also people like us who are making things about it.
Yeah.
So like the video crew in like the first game, how ready are they going to be? Uh, they're professionals, so I'm sure they're going to be like competent at it. But I really wish that we could have gotten like all of the technical glitches sorted out. A funny thing happened with the Dallas Stars tweeting out like, "Hey, we didn't get video of the goal because the camera froze," and
Yep.
that's the kind of thing that you work out during preseason. It's better that happen now versus when the games actually matter.
It's the good old saying. I think we said it once in this podcast, and I think it was said when I was at the Roadrunners game too. Hey, it's preseason for everyone here.
Yeah, it's preseason for everyone, and maybe next year the Coyotes will get a little bit more respect in the preseason.
Absolutely. Hey, we still got more to get to on this show. Coming up, we will talk a little bit of Tucson Roadrunners. They had their first preseason game on Wednesday. We'll talk to that about that, plus other news in the Arizona Coyotes later on this podcast. But first, let's get a little word from our sponsor.
Hey Coyotes fans, this is Carl with an incredible app for everyone who buys gas needs to know about. Get Upside. My listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use the promo code HOCKEY to get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app for free and use the promo code HOCKEY to get up to 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 to $300 a month in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash back gets added right to your account. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use the promo code HOCKEY to get up to 50 cents gallon cash back on your first tank. That's code HOCKEY.
All right, back here on Locked On Coyotes. Once again, Robyn, Leonio, Carl Pavlik. As we're talking some preseason hockey, as we're finishing up talking about the preseason really for the NHL, but the AHL is just kicking off their preseason. I mean, they get like significantly less games in the preseason because I mean, they already technically had preseason season games because a lot of these players were already in the NHL squad.
Yeah.
But that said, they had Roadrunners, Tucson Roadrunners, had their first preseason game against the Henderson Silver Knights on Wednesday. I was there at the Tucson Arena covering it. And Carl, it was ugly. It
Yeah, I
was
mean, I saw the tweets. I was looking and I'm like, this does not look fun at all.
the first period was actually terrible. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like the team was so focused on chasing Henderson on the boards that they left the center ice open way too much.
Ugh.
All of the goals for Henderson were like in the slot, like every single one of them.
That is rough. And it's kind of a surprising turn from what the Coyotes, a team we expect to be bad during the regular season, did good in the preseason. We expect the Roadrunners to be good in the regular season. First preseason game, absolute trash fire.
I mean, I'll put it this way as a somewhat of a comparison though. Like most of them were the rookie players. Liam Kirk was in there. Michelli was in there. Michelli actually looked pretty decent. I'll give it that. He's got his skating in there. He knows he knows where to find, at least on the offensive side. Defense was all over the place.
Yeah.
And I don't know what was going on there, but and Prosvetov was scratched because let's be honest, we don't need him in a preseason game. Don't worry
Especially
about
the
that.
first preseason game.
Yeah. So they put in David Tendek, who is technically the Coyotes' ECHL goaltender. So he's just like he should be in Rapid City,
Yeah.
but they were just like, all right, let's give you a shot here, see what you can do. And yeah, no, he didn't look good either. His third period, though, the entire team looked better, and even Tendek looked a lot better. I'm not sure what Verity said to them, but they just looked a lot better in the third period. And I was just so frustrated by this team. I'm like, are we gonna get more of this like we had last year, or is this just like another mirage because it's preseason?
Well, again, it's the thing that we said all throughout the NHL preseason. It's preseason, doesn't matter, especially the first game. It's definitely. I know, like, people are a little bit jumpy when the season's starting out, and especially with everyone saying that the Roadrunners are going to be good and there's a lot of prospects in there. Like, it's easy to be like, no, things didn't go well for this, so it was going to be bad. But like you said, there's a lot of rookies in there. That's their first professional hockey season in North America, because some of them have played in Europe. Um, it's a it's a tough adjustment. It's like, imagine your first day at work and how nervous you were, and that's what a lot of these guys, I'm sure, were feeling. Just kind of like nervous about the uniform they're going to be wearing the next year season.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you an example though of of some of the players we didn't see. Mosier was scratched, Crotty was scratched, Carconi was scratched. Like these are some of the players you want to see.
Yeah, and I'm sure we will get to see all of them during preseason games, unless there's injuries that we don't know about yet. But it's the first one. Give the younger players a chance to kind of get a feel for it. Again, none of these games matter.
No, they don't. They don't, especially AHL preseason. I think that let's be honest. I think AHL preseason matters a lot less because uh, I mean, it's the AHL. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
I mean, I love the AHL. Don't get me wrong. It's I mean, like I've been covering the American Hockey League for 5 years now. But
sure. Yeah, just like there's some infinities that are bigger than others. Like, there are some meaningless games that are more meaningless than other games.
here's the interesting thing, though. Like, I think it was the first time I'm going to an AHL preseason game because they have not done this before.
Mm,
This is not common. I mean, yeah. I mean, at least for a home preseason game, you usually get one or two preseason games. And for the Roadrunners, most of the time it was away.
yeah.
And this time, like they actually had a home preseason game, and I think the first time ever. If anything, maybe they had one before that I just didn't go to for some other reason. But
I mean, it's definitely possible. The AHL definitely is a smaller league, and that requires smaller functioning. And I could see maybe not wanting to be in Arizona too, like, early on in the year. Even though Tucson is colder than Phoenix, the building is probably less equipped to make it super cold. Just because Gila River Arena is bigger and probably has a lot more expensive stuff in it.
yeah, let's just say this though: Tucson Arena, when there's no people in there, or rarely any people in there, it gets freezing.
Oh yeah, I was down there once for a couple ASU games, and one of the games it was less attended, but every time I've been down there, it's pretty cold.
Yeah, a lot of people have told me they're like, oh, Robin, you're just a wimp. Like it's probably not that bad. And it's like, no, Tucson Arena's cold.
Yeah,
Although I will say this though to the fans listening that actually live here in Arizona, yes, it's cold, but it's not oceanside cold.
Oceanside is freezing.
That is a freezer.
That is, it's almost literally a freezer, and it's why I kind of love it, because it feels the most like a college hockey arena, because it's small, it's cold. There's like a small like place where you can get limited snacks and way too hot chocolate. It it's got its own atmosphere that I love. I love Oceanside.
The first time there, I didn't know it was going to be that cold. I kind of just wore like a simple pullover, and the media guy for the University of Arizona hockey team, he's like, that's what you're wearing. It's like you're
Yeah.
gonna freeze off. I'm like, it can't be that bad. I went to Sharks Ice. Like I know it's like a practice facility, right? Like I've been to those places before. I know how cold it gets in
Yeah.
those places. And I was all high and mighty, pretending I knew what I was talking about. And then I walked in. I'm like, holy crap! And he's like, I told you. I'm like,
Yeah. It is the times I was going, I had very heavy trench coats that I got to wear, which just completed the aesthetic all the more for me. Um, I have experienced the cold many years in my life. I do not like it. I will take one trip up to Flagstaff, like once every 2 years during the winter just to see snow again. But Oceanside, it's just a special kind of cold, and it's so cold. And the Roadrunners are not going to have their arena be that cold because again, it's like level of equipment. They're below the Coyotes, above Oceanside in terms of their freezing technology. So I assume that plays a part.
Yeah, probably that. Plus, also, um, maybe just like the overall like openness of a place. Like if it's like Tucson Arena is it's a convention center, so it's like a little bit more wide open, so it needs
Yeah,
to get colder. Versus Oceanside, which is built in the middle of Tempe, so and it's a small thing, so it's like oh, it's 115 degrees outside. We better crank that all the way down.
yeah, and just make the entire thing cold. You don't need to have like an area like Tucson Arena is very nice. Like you can go around, you can get donuts, you can get many types of beer. I like watching Roadrunners games there. You don't necessarily need the cold up there, whereas Oceanside just so small, make it all cold.
Yep, pretty much. But again, Roadrunners, not a good first preseason game, but that's okay. Like I said, I'm not too worried. At least until like the first week of the actual season. If I see it this continuing to play through the first week of the season, regular season, I will start going insane. Um,
I mean, like you can maybe give it like a couple of games, like, but I mean, it all really depends. Like a super like rough start like can be kind of a big indicator. Um, if
I
it's
mean, let's
like
put it this way: the Roadrunners' good seasons have always had like really hot starts. Like they're like some of the like I think their second year or something like that. I think they started off undefeated for like the first 4 or 5 games, and like at least and like they were looking really good.
yeah,
Um, so
it'll definitely be something to watch coming up. Both I keep saying it. It means nothing, but it means something.
absolutely. Hey, we still got more to get to on this episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. So we're going to talk about some roster players and what's going on with them, and seeing what's anything else that you guys might want to know about. All that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Coyotes. But first, I want to tell you guys about Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar in the land. Did you know that Built Bar has so many delicious flavors? There is something for everyone. When you talk to a Built Bar fan, they're definitely passionate about their favorites. If you don't know all the flavors, you are missing out, ranging from coconut to mint brownie, strawberry, cookies and cream, German chocolate, and more. My favorite flavor, as I mentioned before, churro puff was one of the limited times. If it comes back, I highly recommend you give it a shot. German chocolate out of the regular ones, also really good. That reminds me of my childhood because I would always ask my mom for a German chocolate cake for my birthday. If you haven't tried all the flavors and you want to try them, get a mix box. You get 2 of each of the 9 flavors, and then maybe from there you can pick which one you like the most. Not only are these the best tasting out there, they're also healthy too. 17, 18 grams protein, 130, 180 calories, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and 4 to 5 grams net carbs. Amazing flavor, all healthy, all tasty. If you guys go to built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15, you get 15% off your order. Once again, that's LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com.
We're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back on for another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't forget to use our promo code Locked On to receive your bonus. From football, basketball, boxing to hockey, right to your favorite Vegas casino sports. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. Bet online is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. Bet online, where the game starts.
Man, I love sports betting, Carl. If there's one thing I'm going to do this weekend, I'm going to use BetOnline because I was just looking at some odds for other sports, not just hockey. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm taking my Giants, my San Francisco Giants, to beat the Dodgers. They are plus 143 underdogs in the series, in the National League Divisional Series. So I'm taking that bet with me.
Yeah, always bet on your team. It's a good way to go. And hockey season hasn't started yet, so might as well get in some bets while you can.
Especially super rivalries. I love. If you don't love rivalries, what are you here in sports for?
We've discussed rivalries before. Where to call the out in the ad spot? Ah, thank you.
Of course, of course. Anyways, let's get to finishing up this episode of Locked On Coyotes. But first, I do want to thank you guys once again for making Locked On Coyotes your first listener of the day. Once again, we are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. But let's get to talking about finishing off this episode, Carl. Talking about some roster players, and let's go for the first one. Actually, not really. Like before our last episode that we talked about, this player wasn't a roster player. Technically, he was on a PTO, a professional tryout,
Yep.
trying to get a roster spot. And I know you're probably wondering. You probably already know. We're talking about Alex Galchenyuk. He signed a 1-year deal worth about $750,000. So he got the veteran minimum for 1 year. Got upgraded from his PTO to an actual standard player contract. And you know what? I'm happy for the guy. I'm excited to see him back, wearing now the Kachina black.
Yeah. It was definitely a player. Craig Morgan mentioned it a lot, and I agree that he wasn't going to sign a PTO if there was
No chance.
yeah, if there was no chance he was going to make it. He probably had some pretty good idea that he was going to make the roster. And I do think that he has a good chance of being a productive member of this roster. We were talking about it earlier. There's a lot of redemption stories for the Coyotes this year, and Alex Galchenyuk could definitely be one of them.
Yeah, he definitely could be one of them. I'm excited to see what he can do. I mean, we already saw him play for the Coyotes before. He ended up getting, sent over with in a trade a couple of seasons ago. But,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, now the Coyotes are going to have Galchenyuk and Kessel. So,
I know, right?
yeah, we just need P.O. Joseph back.
Yeah, let's see if we can get him back for some one way or another. He was supposed to be a decent prospect, but
Yeah, he seems to be developing pretty well. I mean, the Coyotes getting Kessel.
it was bigger. It was more important.
Yeah, yeah. At the time, looking back, that trade did not work out well. But for a few short years, when you were an Arizona Coyotes fan, Phil Kessel was on the team, and that's fun.
I
I
mean,
like that.
let's put it this way. Those couple years ago, the Coyotes were emerging from their last rebuild. They're like, hey, look, we're a competitive team. At least it's what it seemed like. And then, stuff happens and they kind of fall back. But you know what? That's part of being a hockey team. You're muted.
Sorry, my whole system shut down for a second there. Oh, good.
Just keep going.
Yeah, no, it was one of those moves where at the time it maybe made sense. Now, looking back, the team wasn't in the right place. And it, I, like I said, I do think Galchenyuk is kind of like the perfect player to, come back. He is going to have a lot of opportunity with a completely new coach, and let's see what he can do.
Let's see what he can do. I mean, again, because there was a lot to it, and I think he definitely did serve the Coyotes well. I think that was what his time at the Coyotes was probably his like his last decent year.
Yeah, it was definitely his kind of the last time that people thought he could be a center. Full time. Maybe his second year. Really all started to kind of go downhill from there, though. So that was kind of rough, but he's still young. And I have heard nothing but good things about him since he's come back to training camp.
Yeah, which is a good thing because you kind of don't have much expectations for a player that's jumped around to a million different teams because he can't find a spot on their rosters.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. One other player that I wanted to talk about, just because he, I think maybe more than anyone, has had an exceptionally good preseason and has found his spot on the roster, Lawson Krause. Um,
Yeah,
he had another assist tonight. He has been offensively generating, which after last season where he kept hitting posts and just seemed so snake bitten, he is seeming to bounce back. We're gonna have the croissants. I'm still trying to figure out how to pronounce that.
yeah, it will be. I think what Kraus is doing I did it during this preseason has been phenomenal. I'm excited to see what he can do in the regular season. I think he and everyone else knows that that last year was not his best. He was very frustrated because his accuracy was there. It just was like 0.2% off. Just
Yeah,
kept hitting crossbars.
yeah. It
Um,
was crossbar, post, just everything but the net. It was so painful to watch. Because
I'm
you could,
sure when that offseason hit, that was like the thing he was focusing on most. Just focus on the accuracy and focus, because these hockey players, as they're determined to fix what went wrong.
yeah, and hopefully, like, he's able to, get out of his head so much. Like, when you go on those kind of streaks, it often feels, I know for me, for doing smaller stuff, it feels like you can't do anything right, and it just compounds it and makes it worse. Um, like, I hope that now he's able to maybe like take a breath after he hits a post and like makes the next one, because that'd be like a true like mental development for him.
That would be really good. And again, I'm super happy that he's having a good preseason, or had a good preseason, because now the preseason's technically over.
Yeah.
Um, but it's again, and Kraus is one of those players that he was a first rounder. I think also 2015, 2016.
Um, One of those. I am leaning more towards 2015.
I think it was 2015, because I remember that technically that first, because I remember talking about the
Yep.
first line, and the first line for the Roadrunners a couple years ago was Strom, Kraus, and Merkley, all of which were 2015 first rounders, which was hilarious. And
2015, 11th overall. And yeah, just another one of those players who I think before the season, like, you didn't really know what their future was in hockey. Like, if Kraus didn't like had a couple of rough seasons, we've seen that be a career killer for a lot of players. And like, I think him and Galchenyuk could have theoretically ended up in a very similar space if the team had traded Kraus, and they probably got calls for that. He's a big guy. Like, they tend to get a lot of attention in the NHL.
yeah, one thing that also is probably going to be that's probably getting Kraus to have these good performance is he is in a contract year with arbitration eligible RFA rights. So, uh,
Ooh.
he can, like,
He has some
essentially,
say in his destiny, more so
yeah.
than any other RFA. Uh, RFA contracts are crazy because of just how little you can
Once
negotiate.
you
But
become arbitration eligible, and
yeah, yeah, then you just bring in numbers and you're like, hey, we got new coach, new system. Kraus had a 20-goal year. That gets you a good extension. We often see players play up in their contract years and then don't necessarily exceed those. But I mean, again, if he needed any more reason for motivation, I think he has plenty at this point.
exactly, and I think that's one thing that we will see for a good season from Lawson Cross, and I think it's what we're hoping for.
Yep, definitely.
Anyways, any final thoughts you want to give out before we close things off today?
It's everyone enjoy the last weekend before the NHL starts, because from now on there's no going to be you're not going to have a full weekend. There's always going to be
Right.
something you got to do. You're This is the last time you can enjoy it.
Absolutely. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Coyotes, though. A little teaser for you guys coming up in the next week. We'll have a lot of content coming up for you. Carlo and I believe, starting on Monday's episode, we'll probably start breaking down potential, actual line pairings and we're gonna press some predictions on who we're gonna put on each line. That's gonna be incredibly fun. Plus, we still got to talk to one more crossover for the division series. That is talk to the new hosts of Locked On Predators. And then the next crossover coming up right before the puck drops on Thursday, we'll be hoping to talk with Jay Foster of Locked On Columbus Blue Jackets. So all of that coming up in the next week. So a lot of stuff coming up in the next week. So just to give you guys a teaser for heading into the weekend, because I know you'll be excited for the new content. Anyways, thanks again, everyone, for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review or like or comment. We are available wherever you get your podcasts, now including YouTube. So that's exciting. Subscribe if you're yet to already, because if you want to know when a new episode drops, that's your best way to do it. Subscribe, and sometimes, on your podcast, you'll auto download. So you wake up in the morning and it's there for you. We're ready for you. And that's what I love, and that's why I'm thanking everyone for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen of the day. Don't forget to also interact with us on social media. I'm personally at Robyn1. Carl Pavlik is at Carl Pavlik FFH. We are at LO_Coyotes. Interact with us, ask us any question. We will answer them directly or on a future episode of the podcast. But that's it for today's episode once again. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.